Well, good morning. I think we're live. If you are watching this live, then good on you, because it's quite early. I think a lot of my viewers watch from America. Morning. And it's currently only just coming up to 10 a.m. in the UK, so it must be middle of the night in the USA. So if you're up and you can't sleep and you happen to be watching this, then hello, and I hope you get back to sleep soon. Or you might be watching this on a sort of playback thing, so that's cool as well. I felt that I needed to put something out to yesterday or today, because normally I put my videos up on a Friday, but this week I have been juggling so many different things. I've had 3 fairly major projects that I'm currently trying to work on and complete, so I just didn't have time to put together a nice slick YouTube video. As you know, my YouTube videos are normally pristine and perfectly formed. However, unfortunately this week it just didn't happen. If you are watching and you can just pop in the comments that you can hear me, make sure everything's running all right, I would appreciate that, and also say hi. So what we're going to do today, I'm actually going to do this in 2 parts. I'm going to draw something that will only take us probably about 20 minutes, something like that, maybe 15, and then I'll come back tomorrow and do part 2, and I'm going to colour it then. So let's have a look and see what we're going to be doing today. I think at the beginning, because I didn't have all my OBS stuff set up quite correctly, you had a sneak peek. So let's have a proper good look now. I'm going to turn off me and we're going to look at my other camera. By the way, you might be able to hear the rain. It is raining, and as some of you may know, I do have a tin roof, so it's all going to be rather exciting from here in. So this is what I wanted to do today. It's a picture of 2 little badgers hibernating. Well, they're not hibernating, because badgers don't hibernate. They just sleep for long periods of time and get up in the middle of the day or the night and go and find something to eat. So technically they don't actually hibernate. This is the rough drawing, and I've already, on my piece of watercolour paper, don't know how well you can see that because of the light, I've just very carefully traced it through very lightly. And people often ask me what paper I use. It's this Daler Rowney Aquafine watercolour paper, and I always use the smooth. You can get watercolour paper in 3 different types: smooth, rough and not, which means not hot pressed. And I use the smooth. And it's the fairly thick version. It's the 140 pounds or 300 grams weight. If you can hear me okay, give me a comment, just drop me a comment, say, yep, can hear you, and then we're all good to go. The pens that I'm going to be using for my line work are Tombow Fudenosuke. These are brush pens, and these are the hard-tipped version. So these are the navy blue ones, not the black outside. So you can tell the black ones are the soft tips. And I've got 2 because this is my old one, which is the nib is slightly more blunted, and my new one has the sharp bit, so this is good for doing more detailed work. So I'm going to start off with this one. That's why I've got that, to remind me which is which. Okay, so I'm going to swap over to my watercolour paper, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. I'll start with the badgers. And part of the reason for doing the colouring tomorrow is just so I can leave the ink to dry really thoroughly. Because there's nothing worse than thinking it's dry and then putting some watercolour down and realising you were mistaken. So there's badger number 1, and I'll colour his stripes in when I do the ink, the other watercolour ink work. I haven't been quite as able to continue my normal YouTube work this year, mainly because I've had other projects that have come via my YouTube work, things that people have asked me to do commission work, or I've been working on projects for where I live, the Isle of Wight where I live, commercial work, and video work for doing courses. So if you know of a company called Creative Fabrica, they have all sorts of artistic creative courses on them, and I've done some work for them this year and the end of last year. Not to mention bookwork that is slightly being held up, partly with funding issues and partly because I'm trying to get the other things done before I run out of time and deadlines. I put some other little decorations inside. That's their sort of snuggly little hole that they're in under the ground, and then over the top it's almost like a cut through, so you're seeing a dissected part of the land. And actually what I'll do is I'm going to do a box surrounding it as well to sort of enclose the illustration. This pen, I think this might be its last outing, as I've probably had it a year, and I think it's come to the end of its life. Okay, so I'm going to do this tree first because this one is in the foreground, and I quite like the way that they're sort of coming inwards towards the middle of the sort of central part of the picture, because it feels like they're giving the badgers a bit of a cuddle, which I think is quite sweet. I don't know if you can hear that robin outside. We have a lot of robins around here. And they've just started their robins in the UK. They are the only bird that sings all year round. Most birds just sing when they're trying to attract a mate. But robins sing all year because they are so pretty. Actually, I think what they're doing is they're trying to defend their territory. It's more of a violent thing, but it just sounds nice. So what are you doing this weekend? Anything exciting? In the UK it is bonfire night, Guy Fawkes and all that sort of malarkey, so there'll be lots of fireworks and stuff going off, which actually I used to go to bonfire and fireworks parties and displays when I was a little girl with my dad. However, in recent years we've got 2 dogs, one of whom gets really scared by the sound of fireworks, and also we have autism in our family, and people with autism quite often don't like loud noises, so that's always been a little bit of a off-putting for them. But I also feel I'm working with somebody at the moment from Ukraine who's come to stay in the UK, and she said when there was thunder a couple of weeks ago, she said she's very sensitive to those sort of noises, and I'm guessing that it's not just people who've come from Ukraine, but other places in the world where there is war. So actually I would quite like to see fireworks maybe just at displays only, and not in people's back gardens, and perhaps on just 1 or 2 days of the year, so that you can be prepared for it. Because if you're sensitive to that kind of noise, it's very disconcerting and probably alarming, I should think, to be hearing randomly these bangs going off. And especially because you can buy them in the you can buy fireworks in the supermarkets in the UK, and you're not supposed to be able to buy them, I think, under the age of 18, but kids do get hold of them, and then they go and set them off in the middle of the night. And you can hear fireworks going off not just at 7 o'clock in the evening when the organised ones go off, but really late, 11 o'clock or after. And also when we have the Isle of Wight Festival, music festival, which is very close to us, only about a quarter of a mile away, they have a massive fireworks display at the end of that, which finishes it off, and that goes off at about 11:30 on the Sunday night. And that's in June, mid-June, and then so from really mid-October through to New Year, we are getting fireworks going off randomly, which thankfully now one of my dogs is quite old. He's getting a bit deaf, a bit Mutton Jeff, if you are of the Cockney persuasion, so he doesn't hear them quite so well now, which is probably just as well for him, because he used to find it very distressing. Okay, I'm just going to give these trees a bit of kind of detail and decoration of their trunks. It will probably make more visual sense when I apply the ink, coloured ink. As for the palette, colour palette, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bit where the badgers are, that's going to be nice kind of snuggly warm colours, and then everything else is going to be in blues, silvers, so that it feels like a cool winter evening. Okay, so the last thing I think to do here is down the bottom, underneath where the badgers are, I would like some evidence of outside. So this is all, this area here is going to be inside this little mound, this hill, and I'll show that by when I've finished doing this bit. I might just put a couple of brush strokes across to show that there is something in front of that. But we need some leaves and sticks and things that you'd expect to find on the floor in a woodland, like this. maybe even a little bug or two out for the evening. What should we have? We have a little spider. A little spider in this bottom corner. And I'll put his eyes on in a minute. I'm also going to put some eyes in there. A bit of grass. A few more leaves. Some grass on the top of the hill. So once I've finished this live stream, I'm going to put, I'll leave it so that it can be watched back. So if you want to comment underneath that, I would love to know what you're up to this weekend and what you've been doing the last few days. Whether you had a nice Halloween, what you got up to. And then what I will do is I'll probably come and finish this off when it's nice and dry. I'll finish it off tomorrow. Well, it will be tomorrow afternoon for me. So morning for you guys in the States. There we go, there's a little something. Don't know what it is, but it's got eyes. Let me if you can see this, see if you can see that a bit better. There he is. He's a little something or the other. Okay, so I think that will probably do for the moment. That's all the inking I really need to do. So I'll come back tomorrow, probably afternoon sometime tomorrow, so it'll be a sort of early morning-ish for you in maybe the New York eastern side. And then we'll do some colouring. And it'll be nice and dry by then. It'll be definitely dry. Normally when I do something like this, I would leave it to dry for at least an hour, but even sometimes then it's not quite long enough. And particularly if I'm using my dip pen and my my waterproof ink, that takes ages to dry, and you can make a right mess if you don't really leave it properly. Okay, so come back and do some more badger fun tomorrow, and I will see you then. Have a good Saturday.